An upbeat and hopeful August to each one of you. I hope you all are in the pink of your health and creating your own sunshine. Let's make it more powerful and motivational with today's session. I, Mahima Sindhi, on behalf of the entire MMDU family, extend a hearty welcome to each one of you to our series of live sessions where we bring expert professionals and celebrated artists on board to share their pearls of wisdom and their juices of life experiences to learn from. In the words of Wayne Christia, financial literacy not only involves the ability to count your money, but also tests your ability to evaluate the cost and benefit associated with each decision you make. And an investment in acquiring such knowledge is always and always worthy of the interest that you get out of it. Let us get to know more about financial literacy for students and virtually taste the fruits of life voyage of none other than the two times TEDx speaker, an entrepreneur, and one of the top 200 candidates of the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program, Miss Charmika Nagala. We will have her on the screen after a short break.
पापा ये थोड़ा मेरी तरफ से।
ओ बेटा बाप को पैसे दे रहा है।
अरे नहीं पापा, इट्स जस्ट अ थैंक्स।
किस बात का?
वो आपने कहा था ना, कहाँ पढ़ना है वो फैसला बड़ा होता है। जिंदगी के 4 साल का सवाल नहीं, सवाल पूरी जिंदगी का है।
Maharishi Markandeeshwar deemed to be University, Maulana Ambala, preparing you for the real world.
May I request the backend team to have ma'am added, please?
Hi, Mahima. How are you?
I am good, absolutely well. How are you? Warm greetings.
Likewise. Thank you so much. I think you've introduced me very well to the audience. Thank you for that.
I like to take the opportunity to formally introduce you. So this is for everybody. Miss Charmika Nagala is currently pursuing her bachelor's in economics with concentrations in computer science and business from Kriya University, Andhra Pradesh, and has successfully finished a capstone project from University of Chicago. Miss Nagala loves exploring new things and is currently working on content creation, data analysis, social media marketing, business development, and freelance graphic designing. Charmika happens to be the president of the Hyderabad Coalition of the United Nations Foundation's Girls Up program and is super passionate to bring a change in the perception of gender dynamics globally. She is also the co-founder of the Indian Conclave, a startup registered under the government of Telangana, closely working with education institutions and is committed to working on leadership speaking and amongst today's youth and public speaking, leadership cultivation, entrepreneurial interest. The organization has created a mega impact by uplifting 15,000 enthusiasts so far. Given her interest in finance and entrepreneurship, she has actively started creating content and sharing knowledge through her learning journey. And she's also made it among the 200 creators from the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program. And at this very stage, she happens to be someone who breathes content 24/7. So it's a pleasure having you on the screen, Charmika. So if you allow, shall we begin it? Yes. Shall we begin with the question answer so that we can get to know more about financial literacy and its importance?
Absolutely.
All
All
right.
ready for it.
Superb. So the first question that I have for you is, how has your journey been so far? Is Charmika on the screen the same as the one in real life, or is there a difference?
That's a very interesting question. So my content creation journey started off back in January, when I just said, it's okay, just leave the judgment. Anyone who's going to watch your videos, just put your learnings out and see if anyone benefits from it. Then I started receiving a tons of DMs saying, your videos are very helpful. They simplify complex finance topics to something that's very easily understandable. And I wanted someone 2 years ago who could do this for me. And if I could be that person to someone else, there's nothing better than that. And that's how I stumbled upon the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program and got selected as the top 200. And it's been an absolute blast after that, collaborating with multiple creators. And is Charmika on screen the same as Charmika in real life? No, I do not have this energy that you see on screen. I take the best of all my days, all my learnings, and put it out for that 60 seconds that you see every day. But yeah, I have a very boring life, you could say, just filled with work at this point.
Okay, I see, and I think we are loving. We probably love to know both Charmikas simultaneously, and that will give us an insight in the real journey of an entrepreneur. I mean, what they
Okay.
are on the screen vis-a-vis how they are in the real life, with all the struggles and all the realities hitting hard. I think it will be lovely to know that. So, moving on to the next question. They say a person either disciplines his finances or his finances discipline him. We've all heard this. We've grown up with this basically. So, what is your take on this statement?
Right. I think the statement in itself is very interesting, but I do not agree with the latter part of it, that his discipline finances the person. Because at the end of the day, the statement shows that everyone has financial discipline, which is actually not the case. Um,
Right.
and I think everything at the end of the day is in the person's control. That is, me managing my own finances. But I never think that finances can discipline a person as long as it's not self motivated. So I agree with the first half, but not the latter. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do with my content, right? I'm trying to build or bridge that gap between the knowledge that you don't have about managing your money and your, expenses. Where do you put that money? How do you grow that money? What can you do with that money? There are so many terms and conditions we don't read. But why don't we sit and understand each word and make it like normal English that everyone can understand? And that is the whole motive to create that financial discipline for all of my audience.
Absolutely. And I think if you don't mind sharing, what age did you learn about financial literacy being something that is very important? And then, you actually got a knack of it, and then you realize that this is something that you have to apply it right away. Otherwise, it's probably going to, create trouble in the future, or probably it's something that has to be done in the, in the forthcoming future as well. How did it hit you? Was it something from the, external environment that infused this thing? Was it something in your family only, or was it a self realization? How did you come to this part?
Right. So I'm currently 19, but I started learning about finances from when I was 17. That's when I got my first internship money. And I didn't know what to do with it. First internship money, should I celebrate it out of achievement and give something to my parents? Or should I, invest it in something and give something to my future self? So many confusions around this particular topic, right? And
Yeah.
since it was my first salary, it was something very special to me. And although it was just 1,500 rupees at that point, I really felt I had to do something very different, with it, not just celebrate it off with a bunch of friends. Do not spend it emotionally, but actually see what will actually help me 10 years down the line. That's where my interest in financial literacy began. And that is where the content space was also growing up. You see a lot of creators out there who I really admire. And I loved their content. And I learned a lot from their content. I learned a lot from so many creators' content in the process. Then me and my friend got an idea about why don't we begin something that just educates people on finance. And that's where Project Eiffel, that is Educate India Financially, was born. And we have educated more than 11 developing countries in the world and several schools in India as well. So that was something that we wanted to do. What is credit? What is debit? As basic as that, to actually putting your money in stock market, cryptocurrency, and NFTs. What is the journey like?
This one.
So
Yeah.
right from basics, building the whole building, and actually understanding what is money for a person.
I think that is beautiful, and having that realization at an age that early as 17, I think that is wonderful, because I've actually seen because while you were telling, no, you had that rupees 1,500 as your stipend for internship, and then it could be an emotional spending that we usually as Indians do. So I recall my first salary. I remember writing that off straight away to my father and then putting it in his drawer. I'm sure I remember he did not encash that check, and then he returned it back to me, keeping that envelope with that sweet message I had written for him. So I remember, because that is how we are. I mean, we are built in that manner that we always have that tendency to give back. And because we have that tendency, we forget that giving back, would that give back something to us? Maybe no. And I mean, the word that you said, that you thought, how is that going to help you 10 years down the line? This is something which is very big. We forget, we don't understand, we don't realize. But then when an exigency happens, I think that's the only thing that we actually have that, right? Nobody keeps that cushion money all the time. Nobody has those tags kept in their drawers or their lockers, or their cash counters, of course. I think that was beautiful. So moving on to the next question. college graduates, because we are talking about college students and graduates and people of your age, so they spend years gaining skills that will help them command a higher salary, right? We aim to have that. But at the end of the day, yet little or no time is spent helping them save, invest, and grow their money. Nothing about this is taught in the educational system as well. So how important is it in a country like India to learn those skills at a young age?
That's a very important question, actually. When someone says, "Where do you invest your money?" Even though I think very financially in that sense, I say first invest in your skills, because that
Yeah.
will probably make 10 times more money than you putting it in some market or some bond that probably doesn't that pays barely in single digit returns. So I think investing skills in skills is important. However, on the contrary, you earn a higher salary. Now, what do you do with that higher salary? That is the main question. And I think that's exactly something we are not taught in school, right? We have history classes in school, classes that teach you about the past. But why don't we have future classes in school? That's what Kanye West, said in one of his interviews, and that inspired. Something that trains you for your future, I think, is something that's need of the hour. And
Correct.
similarly, we're not taught so many things in our education system. Um, I'm a huge fan of Shark Tank, and Shark Tank USA, one of the sharks. He mentioned that if there's one thing that he'd like to put back in the education system, it'll be filing your taxes. Now you go to a common man, they probably wouldn't know tax nuances, right? And that is important when you start earning. And I think there are multiple things in the education system that are missing right now, ranging from writing a proper email to networking to, let's say, even sex education and finance. All of them are missing in today's education system. So, how do you bridge that gap? And that is exactly where you learn something from the internet. Everything is free these days. You don't even have to pay for a degree, except for you want that certificate. But I think all the knowledge can be acquired on the internet. So take that additional step and learn how to, manage your higher salary, get a higher salary, know how to manage it further.
Absolutely. I think that is wonderful. And this is very true. Like you were telling about, filing your taxes. So this year, these particular days, I've seen those rush hours and those queues happening outside CA offices wherein people do not know. Probably there's a pressure from the organization and someone has told them that if you don't file your tax, we'll have to do it double the deduction or something like that. And then they're calling and nagging their CAs like how, and the super pressure that the CAs are under because they have to do it, and then them charging higher maybe, and then people literally paying out of their pockets because they do not know, and some of them don't know why are they doing that. I mean, I've seen those people, they are doing it because the organization told them, but if they really know whether they fall under the category, they fall under the bracket, are they exempted, they have no idea. And this is what is the need of the hour, right? It's not about just minting money, it's about putting it to use in the right manner and knowing what are the right procedures to it. So absolutely true. So the next question that I have for you is, the single biggest difference between financial success and financial failure is how well you manage your money, like we've been talking about it. So it's simple: to master money, you must master manage your money, right? So how apt is this for you, and how has it worked for you?
Right. That's actually true. Managing money is very important, is what I think. But knowing how to manage your money starts right from the basics, maybe through your family, maybe with your friends or the community you're learning from. And it is not one shoe fits all. One way of managing money doesn't work for everyone, right? And it is very subjective in nature. For example, there's this rule called 50-30-20 rule. 50 is for needs, 30 for wants, and 20 for savings.
Yeah.
But this rule is very different for billionaires. In fact, they have more into investing, more into saving investing part, and lesser for needs and wants. Now, how do you identify that correct proportion for yourself? Because all of these are very subjective as per the individual's earnings, individual's priorities. Same with investing, right? I do not want to have the same portfolio as my friend, because the financial needs of my friend differ from mine, and I think that is very important to understand. Just because they did well in those stocks doesn't mean you do well. So understand that it is very subjective. Money as a matter is very subjective. Managing money is a skill which is not just taught on the internet, but actually, applied. These days, all of us know what a stock market is. All of us know what mutual funds is. But how many of us actually go and invest? we end up saying, we'll do it tomorrow or we'll do it someday. But the earlier you invest, the more returns you get. So I think it's all about understanding your money situation and do not follow someone else's. And everyone has their own needs, right? And I
Absolutely.
think managing money is a good mix of intuition and logic. So you need to apply your brain and not rely on your CAs or the financial managers you might have.
I think I would agree to that. But also, Charmika, one question. So let's say I'm a teenager and I've gotten into blogging, right? And I've started making some money out of it. So I have my parents, of course, guiding me, and I have that pocket money that I get as an investment because there's no source of earning. So what is the
Correct.
right way for people that young who start earning? Do they follow some strategy? Do they follow what their parents guide there? Or do they ask their teachers, or do they take seek help, or do they go with their gut and intuition and a mix of what we were discussing? So how do you propose for people who start earning that young? I mean, of course they do not know what is debit, credit, and a balance sheet and everything like that, right? Assets and liabilities, of course they'd not know. They'd know that this is cash, and they'll know the basics of mathematics that they've learned in the classes. So what about those kind of little kids?
One thing is, it's so in the case that you follow what your parents do, in most cases, because of course you are living with them and you understand their habits. However, I think there are a lot of differences in managing money over generations. For example,
Hmm.
my parents do not believe in stocks. They think it's
Hmm.
gambling. My parents do
Correct.
not believe in, mutual funds. They think it's all risk. They are someone, they're probably people who invest in gold, or they're probably
Correct.
people who invest in FDs. And I think it has changed over generations. And I think the
Very true.
best part about our generation is we can be aware if we wish to. Now,
Yeah.
when you put that effort towards blogging and earning that money, that little money, I think you need to put that little more effort to understand what you want to do with it, right? What is my ultimate motive with my content? And if I earn money in between, what is my ultimate motive with the money I earn? So
Hmm.
I think setting up a path for yourself, being a little pre-prepared and really understanding your priorities. If that funds your fees, well and good, just spend it right out there. Your parents probably have some planned investments for you. But
Correct.
I think at the end of the day, it matters upon your own research. I know there are multiple finance influencers, content creators asking you to use that app, this app, that type of fund, this
Hmm.
type of fund. But at the end of the day, it is your research. Do not just blindly trust anyone. Have your due diligence.
Probably, yeah. I mean, saying at an age 13 might be a little too earlier, considering them not knowing whether whatever their understanding is, whether it is correct or no. Because then there's nobody to guide, and they have to seek guidance. And like we said, the generation gap probably might tell them that whatever they're thinking is completely wrong. I mean, a 13-year-old vlogger might think into getting something with crypto and Bitcoin, but then somebody in the family would completely tell them it's not right, it's not legal, it's not your age, and stuff like that. For sure, I mean that can happen. And I wonder if there is a parent who's not that literate, and they do not really believe in putting money outside, and they believe in keeping that money all in at their home. I mean, most of the business families, the joint Hindu family businesses that I've seen, in those kind of families I've seen, they have a habit of keeping all in cash. They would not
Mhm.
want a GP or a Paytm. Instead, they'd want to keep their wallet full. So those kind of people, you can't tell them to invest because they love having those hard cash in their wallet. So probably a challenge there. But then, like you told, if the student is smart enough to earn money at that age, probably he'll find wisdom in understanding how to manage that money as well, for sure. So, moving on to the next question, there exists a plethora of aspects to making content piece an outstanding one, and you've been into content creation yourself, and you breed content like we were talking about. So, what do you think are the integral components of creating good content? How can people get into content creation, which will make relevance to almost every kind of audience? Because what we see on the internet, it's almost everything and anything that is dumbed at times. I feel you
That's
find
true.
very less sites which have actual content. Most of them have copy pasted stuff, and I mean, probably doesn't make relevance at all. You're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And I also sometimes feel there's content overload that I see on the internet. So what are your ways of creating good content?
Right. One thing about the content space in itself is that it's a very saturated market. There are a lot of people you have to compete with on the way. And it might be the case that, you might have same content as others. But That's not wrong as well. Because how much information is on the earth, you're going to present it. And it's very common that will be repeated. But something that'll make you stand apart is the way you present it.
Right.
Some people are just humorous in their own way, and some people are, they explain it in such a simple manner that you'd want to listen to them. While some people might give it as a lecture, which you might not want to listen to, right? So I think, firstly, every student out here should try content creation. If you're scared of the camera, write on Twitter, write on LinkedIn. If you're scared of writing, get yourself on camera. Or if you're not comfortable with camera or writing, start a podcast. And
Correct.
there is no excuse left on this earth to not create content. I think
Absolutely.
everyone can. And
Very, very true.
you don't have to be a expert in anything. I'm not even a CFA or a CA who probably knows 10 times more than I do. It's just sharing my learnings on the way and making sure that whatever I share is actually true and legitimate. So
Right.
just share your learnings. If you learned something new in your consumer psychology class today, explain it to people. They would want to know more about how your psychology works and why you end up buying a few things. So
Yeah.
share your learnings. You don't need that perfect time or a perfect place to start content creation. The best time is now, if not the past. And one very important thing for today's content is the attention span. Um, we don't even watch 60 seconds videos from. We just scroll.
Very true.
And what is something that will make people watch your reel? Have that enthusiasm, energy, that will attract people. So giving out that vibe is also equally important. And
Correct.
a part of it also comes from, people love video content. So if you're comfortable with video, please go ahead with it. Here's a fun fact, in fact. Even though people want to listen to songs, they statistically, people go to YouTube to listen to songs than Spotify. And
Very true.
that is because people love visual things. So make sure that you're out there, add graphics into your videos that make it attractive, put your energy, make it have that voice modulation, be a little quick because attention span is very limited. And editing, designing, later part. Tech factors are later. First, getting quality content. Quality content comes from your own learnings. And a part of it is also credibility. You achieve something to make sure, I have achieved this. So I am probably the right person to give you and share my learnings. So first, you gain credibility by getting some recognition out there or doing some course or something that'll make sure that I can trust this person. And after that, you just start creating content. And tech factors are later. Video editing, designing, you can learn it in 2 weeks or so.
Absolutely. I think that those were great insights, and this is something which is very true. Instead of watching, let's say 30 minutes video, I'd probably prefer something in a reel, which is probably 60 seconds and even lesser, gives me all the details, and that's that. I would not want to get into the details of it because I don't have that time. Plus, I don't have that patience. Today, I feel that people out there are losing patience, like how they don't want to, just wait. They can't wait. They have to just get it done, or probably it's now or never, and then they just skip the part. They'll just leave it to some other day, and then they don't want to do it. So absolutely, that attentions, you have to seek that attention, and for you to have that, you need to have that OTT factor. If you have that, people will stay even for a random meme per se. And if you don't have that, if it's something very, very relevant, need of the hour, they will just skip. They'll just scroll because we ourselves have been doing that, right? So absolutely. Moving on to the next question. So many entrepreneurs out there wish to know what is the right way to address thoughts that they usually get, while they've probably begun with their journey or so, as to how am I doing with the financial management of my business, or how I built a foundation on which I can scale and grow the company. So, what should they do if they have such kind of self doubts? And is there a guiding principle that has worked wonders for you?
That's very interesting again, because I think as entrepreneurs, we end up overthinking finance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd say for every complex problem, there's a very simple answer. All you have to do is break that complex problem, understand each part of it, and tackle each part of it, and you're done. And
Correct.
there was this research that was between CAs and kids, a competition, not necessarily, but they looked at the investing patterns of CAs and they looked at investing patterns of these children. And what they found is that at the end of the day, children get the most returns than the actual CAs. Why is that the case? They think very simply. They know what industry is going. And from their point of view, right, they probably know Marvel is growing or they know DC is growing. And they end up investing in the simple things they know. And sometimes we just overcomplicate it. And that's what I think is the sad reality. I'd say stick to basics. If you're an entrepreneur, stick to the very basics of making or managing money in your business. Something as simple as, if you're a solopreneur, have that 35% or 40% of your income into saving or investing. Set that aside.
Yeah.
Stick to the very basic, like, if you're freelancing, if you're a solopreneur that way, you can automate and track your expenses using basic Excel, right? See where you spent a lot, see what didn't work for you, what worked for you. That way data comes in very handy. And last thing is very important is having an emergency fund, not just for yourself, but also for your business. Understand the nuances of your business, nuances of your personal financial state, and actually set up particular financial emergency fund for yourself. I think sticking to the very basics is important, and do not overthink finance.
Right. I think, yeah, that's true. Probably overthinking of something would probably lead you to just getting into it and then getting stuck and not coming out of that zone or the bubble that you create out of it. Instead, thinking in the right manner and taking a proactive step or taking a critical step wherein, do it when it's required. Or probably, a person like you and I, because we are into business, we're doing it, we probably keep thinking, and then we have that burden, and our to-do list is always tagged with this one pointer, check your balances or check your this thing, and then that's always going in the next day, next day. We're not doing anything about it, and then but we have that burden every night when we go to sleep, that oh my god, I've not done this, and by the time you end up doing it, you've created a mess out of it, or probably it was nothing and you were just worrying about it way too much. So like you said, not overthinking is something that the generation today needs to do in general as well. I think we think a lot like how, and that has to control. So moving on to the next question, growth force has served over 1,000 small businesses today, and common denominators for CEO's success is keeping the score. So a CEO must understand how to produce and analyze KPIs, reports, and scorecards about past performances to drive the future results. So how much does it hold true for you?
Hmm. Something that we should be grateful for that was probably not in our parents' generation is that we have data today.
Hmm.
And that is the best part, right? Best part of today is data. There's so much demand for data analysts, business analysts. In fact, it's one of the highest paying jobs that you see in the market today. That is
Hmm.
because people want to prick those points where you did well, continue that for the future. Look at the points where you did not do well and ditch them in the back. And that's where your growth starts. And the best part, like I said, is data. And I think numbers tell a story which is not visible on the face of things. And something that we cannot directly understand can be easily explained through numbers. And
Hmm.
analyzing the past for the future, I think, is the game. It has always been the game. In fact. Right from checking your investments. Why do you invest in a particular fund? You look at its previous performance, look at how it grew over 3 years, 5 years, and actually look if you actually want to invest in it. So analyzing the past for the future is important. Eliminating things that don't work, keeping things that work and build on them is further important. And it's not just
Absolutely.
your own data. Look at the world. There is so much data available in the world. Look at what worked for other companies. Look at what didn't work for them. Learn from others as well, others' data. So data is a game changer, honestly. And yeah, I agree with what you said.
Correct. Handling with that much data is something that's the knack. And once you learn that, I think you've managed everything so well. Sometimes people lack on data, lack on content. Sometimes you have content, but you do not know how to put it to use. So knowing, having that resource as an asset, having a lot of data, B, using it to the right use, I think you can be the king of your own kingdom. So moving on to the next question about teenagers, we were talking about the investment, right? So, what are the different ways in which the student community, especially the teens, should start saving and investing their smaller collections that they keep storing in the piggy banks? Because we've been taught that habit of putting little contribution to our piggy banks, right? So, how to take out that money and how to invest that in the right manner at an early stage? Would you like to suggest certain options? for those teenagers out there?
Right. Before we move into saving and investing, let's talk about how teenagers or young college students can actually earn. Right? Um, I think there's no alternative to sort of not earning at this point because the world is very fast. And
Correct.
everyone out there today makes money, ranging from a 15-year-old to a 65-year-old. There's nothing called age at this point, and everyone actually can. Thanks to the internet, we have so many options out there, right? Let's say you're good at writing, you write. Let's say you're good at designing, you design. Let's say you have internships in your own, academy. You learn digital marketing, which is barely a 1 month course, and you can make tons of money if you implement it properly. And of course, you have content creation, which is a great way of getting
Right.
started with your passive income. Now, if you're good at anything, look at ways to monetize it. If you are good at, let's say, math, why don't you teach it to someone who's your junior? Or if you're good at some other subject, you can actually go online and answer questions for which you're paid for each question. There are multiple ways to monetize on any skill. You go to LinkedIn, put in as something weird as uh, monetizing with poems, in fact, without really publishing a book. You can ghostwrite.
Correct.
There's so many options available for you on the net. If you're good at writing, you might as well add college essays for your friends and make some money with that. I think there's no excuse at this point to why not take up something. And identify your passive income source. If you're good at designing, might as well design a T-shirt and sell it to people, right? And people are looking for these. All of these jobs are in demand, especially with the era of the internet. And moving back to investing, right? Investing. Firstly, I'd say before you invest, have an emergency fund because you never know when those rainy days come into your life, and it's not a good sign. Although at this point, probably your parents are paying for you or taking care of you, but it's just a good practice to have like an emergency fund. Probably a few years down the lane, that'll be of use to you. And let's say you're earning 3 to 5 hours of internship every month. Save around 3 to 6 months of your income as an emergency fund. 15, 20,000. Spend the rest or invest the rest. Totally up to you, but set up an emergency fund. That's it. And it is also important to understand we've been overusing the word invest, right? But why exactly are we investing? Understand the core purpose of investing. Most of us invest for the sake of beating inflation. That is exactly why I invest. Um, Understand what are the options for you to actually invest. Um, I think for me, at least, something that I've started off is something like a piggy bank model, is the SIVs and mutual funds. All you have to do is invest a few bucks into your mutual fund every month, and a few years later, it compounds. Compounding is like a magic thing,
Correct.
there was a study about, it's an example, in fact, about if I start today and multiply my steps by 2 every day. So I take 1 step today, 2 step tomorrow, 3, 4 on the next day, 8 on the next day, and so on. And after 15 days, I would have just covered 10 to 15 kilometers. But if
Correct.
I keep continuing that for 31 days, I would have covered 650,000 kilometers. And that is the power of magic. What is the difference between 10 and 650? It is massive. So understand why you're investing. Compounding is magic, honestly. So understand the
Correct.
magic of compounding, understand why you're investing, that is to, get over inflation and probably make something out of your money. And also recession proof your money. All of our portfolios are probably red right now. That is because our market is down, and sometimes in recession, your money doesn't necessarily grow. So how do you recession proof your money? Invest in the most basic things. Let's say you are in recession today, a big pandemic has happened. What are the things you'd actually buy? Essentials, groceries, which is the FMCG market. You wouldn't want to invest in, let's say, travel right now, right? And that's where your travel stocks actually come down, as basic as it. So just invest in the most basic, you know, funds in that place so that you have something that will always grow no matter the recession. So and again, a very simple rule if you want to start off, it's a 50-20-30 rule. You spend 50% for your wants, 30% on your needs. Sorry, it's the opposite. 50% on your needs, 30% on your wants, and 20% on saving or investing.
I think that's a great rule, and that 50-30-20 is going to work for most of the masses out there, except we have billionaires making money like her. So probably they should lend some to you and me, and we'll give something about it. So moving on to the last question, Charmika. How does it feel being a person of a graduate degree yourself and motivating people probably twice or thrice your age? And one loud message you'd like to give to the financial enthusiasts out there.
Thank you. Firstly, I'm super grateful that I have the capacity of motivating people. If you think I can motivate people, that's a big compliment, honestly.
It is for
And
sure.
um, I'm super grateful that I'm in the capacity and I have that ability to motivate people. I'm grateful to everyone on social media, by the way. I think we hear a lot of people getting hate comments on social media, but I think positive comments are underhyped. For every one hate comment, I at least get 10 positive comments, and the value of that hate comment is nullified automatically.
True.
So I think positivity on social media is underhyped. Internet is actually a good space if you wish to start off. Um, Please go ahead and start. And age isn't a factor. Motivating a 13-year-old and 60-year-old is the same when it comes to money because that is the most basic skill that you need
Okay.
at the end of the day. It's as important as communication. Let's say I'm talking to you, it's very important for a 13-year-old to learn their set of
Correct.
talking and 65-year-old to understand where they can reach it. And yeah, I love the fact that internet reaches everyone, no matter the social barriers you might see in the society. And no, it can reach all castes or genders or social economic status, which cannot be possible offline because of the physical social barriers we
Yeah.
have. Um,
Correct.
that way, internet is a great space. And if there's a message I'd like to say, to everyone out there, finance enthusiasts in specific, is keep learning and spread the enthusiasm. The world needs more of financial literacy. In fact, debt and poverty to an extent can be tackled with skills and right knowledge. So I think it begins from each of us and with the support of stakeholders like the government, private companies, etc. But I think it starts off from an individual to create a huge movement. So be that person and keep the enthusiasm and the energy contagious to everyone around you because finance is the most basic skill that everyone today needs to.
Absolutely. I think I couldn't agree more on this. And we loved your enthusiasm. I must tell you, you were pretty much energetic, pretty much bang on. A lot of insights that I personally have got, and there are so many people who are listening us out have got that. So I must admit that your life journey and your successful achievements at a very young age speak volumes about your work. We've all had plenty of takeaways and actionables to take home. Wishing you huge success and love and luck your way. Thank you so much for joining in. We look forward to having more such sessions with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super
Thank
grateful
you.
to
Have
be
a
here.
great day. Great. Have a great day. Thank you so much, everybody.